last-minute shakeup at 5:30 a.m., laundry situation not good. And when your focus is on helping your clients, it's easy to forget about yourself. But NASM knows trainers.
Morning, Ryan. It's okay.
And staying in front of the day isn't always as simple as 1, 2, 3. So when the unexpected has you pressing pause,
what's the latest on creatine?
I'm going to get back to you on that.
let NASM1 help you press play. Visit NASM.org to sign up for a membership today.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Strong Mind, Strong Body. I'm your host, Angie Miller, and I have a challenge for you today. I'm wondering if you are as obsessed with fixing things as I am. And I don't just mean fixing things, although I do have my Girl Power Toolkit. I do like to walk around with my tools and fix things. But I'm talking about just fixing, like fixing things that go wrong. Like, here, I'll take care of that. Let me just come in and swoop in with my Superwoman cape and fix it. And some of us, we get caught up in this fix it mentality, like we're broken or things in our lives are broken. And so we're going to swoop in and try to make them right. But my friend Kelly Ayala, she is a licensed professional counselor and she's a yoga teacher. She's also EMDR trauma certified. And Kelly has a different take on this whole fix it mentality. She says that actually you trying to fix yourself could be the very thing that is holding you back. So if you get trapped in that fix it mindset, today's episode is for you. We're going to talk about that difference between what it looks like to fix something and what it looks like to repair something, and how to build an authentic relationship with yourself, your body, and your goals so that can lead to lasting transformation. So this applies to you, and it also applies to the people that you work with, whether it's in the business world or the fitness and wellness world or the world of therapy. So Kelly, I'm going to bring you in and have you introduce yourself. How are you doing?
Hey, Angie.
So
I'm doing good.
Awesome. And you're in Dallas, right?
I am in Dallas.
All right. So, and I'm here from Charlotte, and Eric, my producer, is in Phoenix. So we're all three in these sunny areas, which is wonderful. So Kelly, I love this idea of not fixing things because I'm a fix it fanatic. So, and I think that a lot of us have been conditioned to view self-improvement as like, let's just fix what's broken. And for me, it's been interesting because I think my mind always would say to me, like when people would be like, oh, that's not my problem, or oh, that's not my fault. I'm like, oh, just blame me, because if it's my fault or my problem, I can fix it. And that's where my power lies, versus the whole victim mentality. And that was kind of where I got caught in that trap of, I don't mind it being my fault. And, here, just let me fix it and take care of it. But so that said, a lot of us are caught in this fix it, fixing what's broken. And I just want to know from you, how does this mindset actually create barriers to healing and growth?
Well, one of the things that I like to think about whenever my clients come to me is that they are coming to this setting because they are under tremendous distress. And whatever fix-it strategies they've been using for a while just seem to no longer be working. And, as a therapist, we've been trained to utilize tools such as coping and breath practices. But then I was hearing that my clients were coming back and they were like, well, this isn't working. So it really got me interested into thinking about what's not working with these components of coping and breath practices that were used to try to fix the distress. And what I'm understanding is that our busy lives are achieving parts of us, and the parts of us that kind of perpetuate this busyness in our culture really reward these fixing strategies.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Because if it's broken, we can fix it. And therefore, that's all there is to it, right?
Absolutely.
But I hear you say that actually perpetuates the stress, because we say to them, well, if it's broken, here, let me help you fix it. Let me give you this coping strategy or this breath work. And they're like, well, there's more to it because they're still suffering. And so what do you do from there then?
Yeah. So, what's really important is to really support our clients in understanding that going beyond a fix it strategy, there has to be something relational underneath that. So, there's an example that I like to give, especially when it comes to these fix it strategies. I am a former collegiate athlete, and I really wanted my batting average to improve. And so I kind of took on that same mentality as you, Angie. If there's something broken, then that means that I have this innate responsibility and skill to be able to go and to fix it. So that means spending a lot of hours in the batting cage. And I got really good at eye-hand coordination. And I was really confident in that skill of building eye-hand coordination. But when I got up to the plate and I was trying to put this fix it skill into practice, what I was realizing is that I still wasn't making contact with the ball. And
Hmm.
this led me to kind of understand what is it that my body's experiencing that's impacting my ability to achieve this goal. And as I tapped in a little bit deeper, I felt that there was a physical response that my body was having that I wasn't able to attend to through the batting cage. And that was anxiety. My body was needing this relational repair with myself to be able to build the skills that help support me in being present with that process of being up at the plate.
Hmm. Okay. So it's like you needed to build a relationship with your mind and your body. You needed to be more present centered. It wasn't about here, do this coping skill, here, pick up this screwdriver and, or hammer this a little bit harder. It was like, no, I need to kind of get into relationship and focus on what's going on.
Hmm.
So, you know, your batting practice was like a good I that was like a good example. So what like give me another example like in a client situation when they come to you and they're like, "Hey, I still have this severe anxiety." What would you offer them then?
I think what I really want to offer them is an opportunity to begin to build that connection back to themselves. And one way that we do that is just by simply slowing down. But slowing down can be really dangerous to a fixing system. And so there's kind of this connection, or I don't know if convincing is the right word here, but there has to be some sort of agreement on board where our body's going to give us that permission to slow down a little bit.
Okay. Because a lot of times slowing down is actually kind of the pathway to kind of improvement, right? I mean, at the end of the day, the faster I go, the more mistakes I make. It's the truth. I tend to do sillier things. I tend to make more mistakes. I tend to rush through things and miss key components, which causes me more time later. So I do agree with that. You and I were kind of talking about the distinction between fixing and repairing. And I had asked you for a specific example where when you shifted from a fix it to a repair mindset, you could help transform someone's journey. And you had talked about a shower incident. Can you
Oh
walk
my
us
gosh.
through that?
Yeah. So we had just done remodeling at my house, and I was like, everything is great, everything is wonderful. So I went into the shower for the first time. I turned on the valve, and the valve just flew right off the wall. And it was in that moment that I had to go, oh my gosh, this needs a fix. So we call the fire department, and they turn off all the water. And what fixing does is that it helps make small repairs. But what we really needed was an expert. And an expert is going to know the inner workings of the plumbing, how the pipes fit together, and how the valve is going to need to come back onto the wall so it can work properly. And what essentially we're doing in a therapeutic process is that we are working on supporting our clients and learning how to become and reveal the expert within themselves so they can begin to provide the care that they need through their distressing situations.
Hmm. I like that idea of being an expert of yourself, because it's interesting, because we talk about that in therapy, where the anxiety when we first went through our training was that we had to fix people's problems. And
Totally.
oh my gosh, what if I screw them up because I don't know
Yeah.
how to fix it? And then we came to realize very quickly and early on that it wasn't our job to fix it, that people are not broken, and
Yeah.
we are not supermen and superwomen, and it's not our job to fix people. People are the best person at taking care of their own situation.
Yeah.
They just need guidance and support. And I find that it's the same way in fitness and wellness, as trainers or corrective exercise specialists or movement specialists or wellness coaches. Sometimes the biggest anxiety is, oh, I have to make their lives perfect. I have to fix their body exactly this way, or I have to help them take care of all the problems in their life. And I say, no, you don't. They are going to be able to do that. They just need support, and they need to choose the speed at which they approach their difficulty or their situation.
Yeah.
Would you
But
agree?
I would agree. And I would add to that, that when our clients are coming into session with us, or when they're initiating this outreach to therapy, they might be being led by their fix it parts, which in turn, that puts the therapist in the expert role for us to provide for them the fix. But as I was saying earlier, when clients were coming back and saying, this strategy that we worked on, or this breath practice that we worked on, it isn't working, that's really what got me interested in understanding, well, what's got to be underneath that?
Yeah. And the thing is that, again, it's not just therapists who get caught up in that. I think trainers get caught up in being the expert. Well,
Yeah.
I'm the expert because I have all the scientific knowledge. And I think what you and I are saying is, how about yes and? Yes, you might be, quote, an expert, and you might have the science, but you're not an expert in every human, because humans are the ones who are the expert in their own lives. And their role is to figure out their journey and for us to support it. And if they can get in relationship with their mind and their body, they're going to
Mhm.
do better and be better and feel better, versus us just throwing tools at them, because sometimes tools just feel like more things they have to fix. And
Mhm.
then they almost feel more broken. Like, oh,
Yeah.
she told me to do breath work and it's not working. I'm still anxious. So I'm not
I
even
am the
helpable.
problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I can't
Yeah.
even be helped, for God's sakes. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I think that just kind of slowing down in order to get further and becoming an expert in your own self and getting in tune with what's going on.
Mhm.
So that leads me to another question. You bridge mental health and movement because you teach yoga.
Mhm.
I bridge mental health and movement because I teach yoga, and I am a therapist, and I teach fitness classes and so on. How do
Mhm.
I know how I do it, but I want to know how you do it. How do you move away from people seeing their bodies as machines that need fixing, towards
Yes.
something that's more compassionate and
Yes.
this relational situation within themselves?
That is such a big question for me, because as a high performing athlete at the college level, my performance was indicative to my worth at the time. And so if we look at the comparison of dopamine release in respect to, let's say, illicit drug use, it's instantaneous. It like happens immediately. So this idea of building repair and building relationship back with ourselves is something that happens over a greater period of time, meaning that dopamine isn't being released as instantaneously as maybe a fix it activity might be. And so, where the dopamine goes, motivation goes. And utilizing yoga, while it's a beautiful bridge in this perspective, it doesn't always have that instantaneous relief. So, number one, I want to address that there has to be an intention. We have to kind of move into this idea about why we're doing this, and not for a level of achievement, but maybe for my personal growth. So I think that's really important when identifying why you're moving into a movement practice in a new way. And as far as being able to provide that movement practice to people, I really create an invitation around being able to notice what's happening outside of your body and how that impacts the inside of your body. So instead of doing yoga to reach our next headstand or our next back bend, success is found in how you are creating relationship. And the way to tap into that is to listen. Can I hear what my body is telling me? Can I feel the sensations that are happening within my heart, in my chest, in my shoulders, and in my spine?
Mm. I need to sit with that for a minute because you said a couple of key points. And one of them is you said that when you were an athlete, performance meant worth. And let's be honest, in everyday situations at work, performance equals worth. When we are in school and we grow up, our grades are our quote worth. And
Yeah.
then when we take our ACTs, our SATs to get into college, that's our worth, depending on what college we get into. And then we go into the workforce, and our worth is our productivity and our performance and whether we're going to get a raise or get the next job. But we're saying the opposite, and people are like, no, that doesn't work. And yet, I think what you and I are saying is, what if it does? What if all of that performance driven stuff that is in society is what's creating the anxiety? So if you don't give yourself space and place to pull away from that, you're going to lose your mind, which is why, let's be honest, a lot of high performing people leave their job one day. They just hit a wall. And the next thing you know, you see them in India at a meditation retreat, and they completely bag it and say, I can't do this anymore, because they run into a wall. Everything about their life is performance driven. And so you're saying, what if we focus on growing, not achieving? And what if the fitness and wellness space is the perfect place to do that, to see our bodies as an opportunity to grow and inhabit this space without looking at it as, what have I achieved today? Did I run 5 miles versus did I get in touch with my body and do something that made it feel better? Is that kind of what you're saying?
How did I feel in the run?
Yeah.
What did my body experience as I was running? What did I like and what did I not like? I want to just tap on this little component of desire. So when we tend to have these strong, hardwired fix-it mentalities, it's because we're receiving accolades or feedback from our external world. When we learn to crawl, when we learn to walk, we look back at our caregivers and they go, yay! And that helps myelinate and helps reinforce those patterns of achievement for outside approval.
Yeah.
So when we kind of make this mind shift or mindset shift away from achieving for a score or a number or someone else's approval, we're really tapping back into our own personal desires. And when I realized this for myself, it kind of took me back, because I was like, oh my gosh, I totally forgot what I want and what I like and what I don't like. And I started realizing that it was my own personal interests that really mattered into what I really wanted in my life.
I have to stay with that for a minute because you said something, you lose yourself. And here's the thing. I think it's very similar when people lose themselves in relationships where they're so busy focused on pleasing their partner that they forgot what it's like to please themselves. And they're like, I don't know how or when, but somehow I lost myself. And I got so caught up on what my partner wanted. Well, I think it's very much the same thing, like you said, at work and performance driven, growing up with our caregivers looking for approval. And we get these dopamine hits every time somebody says, you're amazing. And then we're like saying, yes, but that's great, except that you lose yourself in leaning on other people to give you approval. And then you forget how to listen to your body and even know, does that even freaking feel good? Okay.
Yeah.
Or you just feel like you beat the crap out of your body. And therefore somebody's so impressed with you because you did it. And, I have a weird example, but I had a gal this morning and I'm at the gym and she's like, do you train clients? And yes, and two things can be true. Yes, I do. And I've had to really put the reins on it because I just don't have the time and to take on any more clients. And it happens that way in therapy. It happens that way in health and wellness. And because we are so driven to help people and please people and get that dopamine hit of, oh my gosh, they want to work with us, we must be really good. It can be so hard to put the brakes on and say, yes, I do train people and I can't take any more clients right now. And I
Yes.
think that as fitness and wellness coaches, I really want you to hear that, because people will wait for you. But you know what? You know who won't wait for you is you, right? Like I could shed a
And
tear
you
on
need
that
you
one.
the most.
Yeah, I'm like, you won't wait for you. Okay. I
Yeah.
can shed a tear on that one. Let me tell you what, you can get so busy and so burnout, and then there's no more of you. And then all
Hmm.
of a sudden, you are strung so tight that all
Hmm.
the help that you were providing people is not carrying the same benefit because you're not the same person.
Hmm.
And so I would beg everybody listening to just pause and say, you're the expert role in your life. Okay.
Hmm.
Maybe the dopamine hit needs to come from within about how
Hmm.
you feel when you do
Hmm.
movement, and try not to lose yourself, but to consider feelings and experiences versus performance and paychecks and all the other things.
Yeah. And when you're kind of patiently waiting, and I really want to use that word patiently waiting here, is that our neural pathways will ultimately take the path of least resistance. And if you are experiencing, exploring desire and what you like, and starting to practice building this connection and repair back to yourself, it is not going to happen instantaneously. You might really have to break it down and find the small little glimmers, which happens to be a buzzword recently. I like to call them little nibbles, but find those little moments, those little nibbles that you can kind of hang on to and start to build and grow as you continue the process of building repair back with yourself.
Yeah, take your time. Go slow.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen overnight. You have to go to school
Mhm.
for 12 years when you're growing up, and then you have to go to college for 4, then you have to get a master's, right? All that stuff takes time. Change
Yeah.
doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
Kelly, I want to reset for a minute. So
Okay.
this is Strong Mind, Strong Body. My name is Angie Miller, and I'm talking to Kelly Ayala. Kelly is a licensed professional counselor and a trauma certified therapist. She also is a yoga teacher, and we are talking about fixing versus repair. And Kelly is saying, let's stop trying to fix ourselves because we're not broken. Let's talk about repair and doing repair from the inside out. So, Kelly, you had also mentioned to me that, in fitness and wellness, we always want to fix our flaws. And oh my gosh, every day, I have a female, mostly female, come up to me and say, that line, that part that hangs over my bra, or, that little pocket back there that goes over my jeans. And they just want to like take pieces of themselves and pick it apart and then find out how I can make it better for them.
Yeah.
And so you talk about reframing these goals to come from a place of repair and relationship building, which you've already talked about. But I think that you did kind of mention first, we have to know what's motivating our goals. Is it
Yeah.
external or is it internal? And I want to
Hmm.
deep dive into that because I think you have a good example about a business degree. Is that right?
Yeah. So it was time to go to college. And it had always been drilled into my mind. It's kind of like one of those things you look back and your parents are going, yay, you did everything right. And so I kind of had this predetermined pathway that I would get my school paid for by playing college sports, and then I would get a business degree and then move on and everything would be great. And so I really dove into that and I followed that pathway. And I look back, my parents were like really excited, but on the inside, I just felt so empty and just so unfulfilled. And it was really hard for me to kind of try and negotiate this conflict. Like, I'm doing everything that I'm supposed to be doing, but why am I not really feeling the same benefits inside of me as what everyone is showing me on the outside? And so, being a therapist, I went into doing my own deep dive and learning about myself. And as I started to learn about myself, and I was able to kind of provide some support to the parts that wanted to do all the fixing, I could really start to hear into my own desire. And I was like, you know what? For the longest time, I have loved studying psychology, and this is what I really want. And so I've really just kind of had to learn that it was okay to listen to my own internal expert.
Yes, that's such a great. And how many people have I met along the way who share your story, who started out one way and then realized that was not the way? And maybe it was because somebody told them they should do it, or maybe it was because it felt like it was the right thing to do at the time. But
Yeah.
when we lean into what's really speaking to us in our head and in our heart, we really are
Yeah.
the expert in what we want and what we need
Mhm.
out of life.
Mhm.
Kelly, I do want to make sure that we cover something. I want to know if somebody is like, well, how do I know I'm in a fix it mindset with health and wellness? What is that going to actually look like? Because people want to know like actionable. And I always think of anxiety. Like, are you struggling with a lot of anxiety? Because to me, anxiety is, I've got to fix this. This is broken. This isn't working. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? And as much as I've done the work and still do the work, guess what? That's where I catch myself. Girl, you are super anxious because you are looking at everything as something you need to fix.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to where is the motivation coming from, internal or external? So the way that this kind of shows up in our bodies and in our systems, and I'm going to kind of start broad, and then I'm going to kind of break this down into two or three maybe specific components of that. Of course, is anxiousness, irritability, self-sabotaging, where you know you want to wake up in the morning and you hit that alarm clock and say, I'm going to sleep 5 more minutes, and then you find yourself not getting up. Maybe procrastination or delay of taking the steps that you need. High perfectionism. Nothing ever seems good enough. Nothing ever seems like it's working or right. Internalized anger, you're starting to beat yourself up. And then if we break all those things down, those are kind of like general things or general qualities or characteristics that we might be embodying. If we break that down a little bit more, what we're going to see is that we're repeating one goal over the other. We achieve, we go for the next one. We achieve, we go for the next one. And what's happening is we're not having a lack, or we are having a lack of satisfaction. And we're really struggling to be able to identify what completeness is. And that may be because completeness has been assigned to us based on what the world has asked. So as we're refining and moving into this space of repair, we are going to be able to understand what completeness feels like from the inside. We will know when enough is enough versus when someone is having to tell us that we've done enough.
So I want to stay with that for a minute. Everything you just said spoke to me. And I would be lying if I said it didn't speak to me personally too, right? Because I think we are all on a journey. And sometimes we get a little glitchy in that journey. And sometimes I know, like I said, for me, it's the anxiety. And I think I've got to go back to what Kelly said at the beginning. When you start in the irritability, the self-sabotage, you say you want something, but yet you keep doing everything to sabotage that thing. And you're like, what the heck is wrong with me? And then you go into the beat me up cycle, and then it just is spiral, spiral, spiral. I think that what Kelly is really saying, the most powerful thing was that's when we have to slow down. That's when we have to pause. That's when we have to say, who am I doing this for? And what am I doing this for? Because for some reason it's not working. Therefore, I've got to dig deep. And so I like that a lot, Kelly. So let's give them 3 action steps then that they can take. Let's say that they're in that spiral. And I think we already said the first one is pause. Slow down.
Pause. Really invite in that sensation to slow down. And then the second thing that we're going to want to do is we're going to want to connect. We're going to want to allow ourselves to move inward for a moment, really capture the sensations of your breath, maybe any physical sensations, warmth, coolness, tightness. And then the next thing that we're going to want to do is we're going to want to reflect. So even if it sounds silly, I want to really invite you to say, okay, I'm feeling tightness in my shoulders. Okay, I'm feeling shortness of breath. Okay, I'm feeling my heart race. And see if you can validate that without any judgment, without any kind of agenda or intention, and just really remain open to listening to what your body needs from you.
Okay.
So we want to slow down and pause, connect, and reflect.
I like it. I think it's action steps. It really is. And I know for me, the pausing part has been very, very powerful. And for me, the connection part involves journaling always, 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 always writing out my thoughts. And then the reflection part is taking time with it, journaling, talking, reflecting on what's coming up, and really taking that time. Because if you do find yourself getting caught up in cycles and spinning, that's time to pause, then connect, then reflect. So, Kelly, thank you so much for coming on. Thanks to all of you for joining us on this episode. Kelly, it's been a real delight, and we will see you next week.